Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 406. And this is going to be an update episode.
Yeah, our update episodes are, I would say, probably the favorite episodes to do, other than our lives. If you're not coming over,
those drudgeries, like we don't want to do them.
No. We love them all, but the lives are really amazing. So if you're not over on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe over there, hit that bell notification so you get those live episodes. We drop oftentimes on Mondays. But we like our update episodes because it's our chance to talk about what's going on personally in our lives, reselling wise, what we're picking up, where we're sourcing, give some fun stories, talk about reselling news, like what's the current events happening in reselling, what are the new eBay updates and Amazon updates and shipping updates. And then we get to talk about our spicy bolos, the things that you want to be on the lookout for when you're at garage sales, thrift stores, Facebook Marketplace, all the places that you're sourcing, and potentially find a new niche. So we like these episodes. I'm super excited. How are things going, Orlando?
Such a loaded question. You know, it's funny, while you're saying all that, I was thinking about bolos, and I wonder if bolos are the same as they used to be. I think when we first started the podcast, when we would say, here's a bolo, here's something to look out for, like, it was valuable. But I find that now, by the time something is a bolo, let's say on YouTube, especially by a big creator, I give it like 3 months and it's no longer a bolo, right? Like, I think our bolos are better because we don't have as big of an audience. And so the length of our bolos is maybe a year.
Well, I would say, too, the other thing is we're not just necessarily talking about, like, what's the hot item right now that you could pick up at Target or you could pick up, you know, at a retail store. We're talking about niches that you might not have thought about when you're at a garage sale. So a lot of those things are timeless, right? Like, you might not have known a certain brand or a certain, like, oh, I didn't know to look for calculators, or I didn't know to look for this. So those things I don't think really change. Of course, things are going to go in and out of style and popularity. However, our bolos, I think, are a little bit more long-term and more unique. It's not just something you can just jump on real quick. We're not a cook group. You know, this is more of just learning new niches, learning things you might not have thought about picking up. And I love when we get back feedback from our listeners. You know, they comment, they're on our Discord, they comment in YouTube, and they say something like, hey, you mentioned such and such. I found one this weekend, sold it for $120. Thanks. I would have never known to pick it up. So it definitely does pay off for some people.
Yeah, I just was thinking about that because I really do think now more than ever, reselling has changed where bolos shift really fast, right? It's not 1 or 2 years. Like, you always got to be on top of it. You always got to do your research. You know, just because you watched a YouTube video 2 years ago that said, for example, Allen Edmonds shoes, probably don't need to pick up Allen Edmonds. Now, there are some, like somebody in our Discord that talked about they picked up, not Allen Edmonds, but they picked up some Shell Cordovan. Like, Shell Cordovan shoes, regardless of brand, it's a bolo, right? It's that you know, wavy leather. I believe it's horse leather that is very expensive because it's durable and lasts a long time and it's hard to find. And those shoes are always worth $300 to $400. So there we go. We start off with the spicy bolo. All right, now back to how are things. So I gotta be real. Like, I am getting tired of eBay. Now let me make sure I preface that with, I'm not tired of reselling. I love reselling. I love going out there. I love finding items, right? The picking aspect. I do like finding value. I love selling it. I like the business component. The eBay component is what it's kind of wearing me down. You know, I had posted on the Discord, those of you that consistently make, you know, I think I put a dollar amount of $200+ a day. You know, what do you do to guarantee those sales? Because I'm in a place where I need to make more than that, right? As in flows, usually it's about $300 to $500 a day, and things are good. But eBay has been all over the place, like all over the place. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much I list. It doesn't matter how fast I ship. It doesn't matter the items that I end up listing, which, again, I'm not picking up fail items. That's one of the things I always love people say, hey, if you pick up profitable items, you're gonna make sales. But I don't think that's 100% true on eBay. It's just not, because you have the algorithm that you're dealing with. You're dealing with people competing with promoted listings. You're dealing with, you know, some people do free shipping, some don't. You're dealing with people that get, you know, selected higher in the algorithm based on how long they've been selling, based on their feedback, based on their top rated seller status. So it's not like, oh, you just find good things, you'll be good. And I always want to make sure Mike and I communicate with that with everyone. that it takes time to build eBay, especially if you want consistent sales. And so I still get consistent sales. It's not like I don't get sales, but it's been a roller coaster. I'll have one day where I get $800 to $1,000, and the next day it's like 80 to 100, and then one day it could be like $30, and it's like, how? Like, what is going on? Right. And I always say part of it could be me, in the sense that there are a couple days maybe I didn't list, but that goes back to our live episode that we just dropped, where eBay is a taskmaster. Like, there is no room to just take a break. Like, you have to do what you have to do. And so I've been kind of burned out with that a little bit. I remember years ago, there were a few influencers, reselling influencers, just people that had a presence on social media, especially on Instagram, that left. They left to go do real estate. They left to even go do a 9-to-5. And I remember on their way out, I would always DM them and say, hey, what's going on? It seemed like your business was doing really well. I mean, you were full-time. Like, everything I saw seemed things were going, exceptionally well. And they always said, Orlando, yeah, they were going well, but I had to work. I mean, it was a lot of work. I kind of missed the W-2. Like, I missed the fact that, on the weekend, when it's the weekend, it's the weekend. Like, I don't have to worry about listing. I don't have to worry about shipping. And so I understand that. I remember back then, I was a little bit judgmental in my head. I never was in social media, but in my head, I'm like, man, these guys selling out, like, back to the system. But it's like, no. I get it now. I understand, because eBay it hasn't become easier over the years. I mean, if we're real about it, it just hasn't. And eBay's share of profits from sellers has become greater over the years, right? So you add those two together, despite some of the innovations that they've come up with over the years, reselling on eBay does take a lot of work. Now, as a result of that, I've been focused a lot of time with my family, and this is the win with reselling is, yes, is it hard work? Yes, you have to be consistent, but you get to choose when you want to do that sometimes, right? So the last few weeks has been great. I've been able to travel. I've been able to, spend the entire 4th of July with my kids. It was like the last summer before one of my kids goes off to college. So, doing the fireworks thing or hanging out with other families, serving with my church, like all those things have been really enjoyable. And I haven't been tied down to, I got to check my schedule. I don't know if I can work. Like that part has been amazing. And so at the same time too, I also had tons of inventory that I've been listing from my friend that came down from the Bay Area, and it's been great. I also have had that haul that I had from that home where I picked up a bunch of records and a guitar and all that stuff. So I haven't needed to source, which has been kind of great, because in San Diego, anything over 90 degrees is just too hot for us. Like, I find that garage sales die when it's over 90 degrees. And so we've had, a decent amount still, but let me give you a comparison. So when I search, let's say, on Craigslist for garage sales, when it's, around 70, average 70 degrees, 80 degrees, generally I'm able to find 250 to 300 garage sales in all of San Diego. When I go to the area where I live, there's about 100. Well, right now, it's about an average of like 140 on a weekend. And in the area I live, maybe there's like 20-ish. And out of those 20-ish, like 4 of them are repeat. 5 of them are resellers that are trying to offload inventory. And so there's only like 10 to choose from. And even those 10 aren't great. So, I know a lot of people are like, Orlando, I'd be happy to just find 10. Like, I have to drive 3 hours. I understand that. I understand that. I'm not trying to discount that. So, it's just been great to be able to have inventory and not have to do all that. So it's just kind of the summer lull, like, enjoying time with the family, still making money, still having to pay the bills. But, reselling's great. It's just, it's a lot of hard work in the summer. So that's kind of where I'm at. So how are things for you, Mike?
Yeah, I can't say for sure garage sales have dipped. My gut feeling is that they have dipped here because the weather is still getting hotter. The nice thing is it's not quite as hot here in Central Texas as it was this time last year. We're having a much better year for that. So, but I've been kind of busy on the weekends. My son has got a lot of things going on. My oldest, we're doing swim lessons. We've got other like family things going on. So I've kind of decided I'm not going to do tons of garage sales this summer. Mostly because I can do garage sales during the school year, the Saturday garage sale thing. That's something I can do with my normal 9 to 5. But going to the Amazon return store, the day to do it is Friday here. Like that is the day you want to be there on Friday. So really my only time to do the Amazon return store is going to be during school breaks. Like that's really it. I mean, I've gotten some profitable items on the non-Friday days, but Fridays they're restock, they open up and they've just restocked. It's their high dollar day. And so that's where I'm like, I just want to capitalize on this as much as possible until I can't do it anymore. And then, hopefully these stores don't go anywhere before my next big break or before the next summer. But yeah, I've been doing really good at these Amazon return stores. I've been selling a lot of the items. I've noticed, I don't know if it's just because I don't want to say I'm way better at picking up items, but I'm definitely better at like pricing and trying to price my items to sell. I used to, if I saw items selling for $70 on eBay, I'd put a $70, that's how I'd start mine at. Now I'm like, okay, these are selling for like $70. There's a couple sold for $60. I'm just going to put it for $55 and I want it gone by the end of the week. Right. And a lot of times it's working. I think there's a benefit to newly listed items anyways. I think they list higher up in the algorithm. I've noticed over the years, especially recently, I can go through a death pile, put all those things in one tote, and I just label it like miscellaneous 7 or whatever I label that tote. And almost guaranteed the next probably at least 70% of the sales that I get are going to come from that tote. And before you know it, it's empty. And so I think that you already have an algorithm boost with newer listed items. And then on top of that, I'm pricing the items to sell. So that's been kind of nice. I've definitely sold a handful of things. In fact, right now, when we get done with this podcast, I have to pack up, and it's really nice because they're really small, but some like freezer temperature things. So I sold those for like $40 some plus shipping. I remember you paid $8 for them. I picked up an ultrasonic cleaner that I sold for over $50. So I'm definitely moving these items quick. One of the nice things about the Amazon return stores is, I mean, some of the items aren't really boxed well, but a lot of them are already in boxes. And it took me a while to like really figure out like how much time that's saving me. The fact that a lot of these items are already in a box that has been returned, which can be a pain to figure out what's in the item or what in the box. There's these little labels that Amazon puts on them that kind of gives you a description. Or when you get an item from Amazon, you'll notice sometimes there's these little labels with descriptions. So that helps. But the nice thing is most of these items are already boxed. They're already ready to go. And so like I take my pictures, most of them are either new in box or most of them are open box. But I don't have to worry about now I got to find the right size box for this. Now I got to, for the most part, it's just slapping a label on it, putting some tape on it and shipping it out. So that's been a huge time saver too. One of the cool things that I picked up this last time. So I'm in one of the bins and I see, and it was an open box, some like over-the-counter hearing aids. Like, you know how like there's the prescription hearing aids where you actually go and you get tested and you get like the ones from a doctor. But you can go into any Walmart or CVS or Walgreens and they have over-the-counter hearing aids that you can pick up. And I picked up this one they were called Atom. And I'm looking up comps on eBay. My typical go-to is to check what things sell for on Amazon and then to check eBay. Because that kind of, I know not to waste my time on eBay if I'm like, oh, this is a $19 item on Amazon, right? Because somebody can buy it new for $19. I'm not going to be able to sell it for a profit. But these, the Atom headphones or hearing aids, they sell for quite a bit on Amazon. So then I'm looking them up on eBay, and almost every major sale, like the high dollar ones, were these ones called the Atom Pro 2. So the Atom, just the regular Atom ones were like, they're pretty profitable. I could probably sell them for like $50 some. But the Atom Pros 2s are like well over 100. And I'm like, dang, man, I wish I would have got one of those. So then I'm digging through some boxes and digging through some more stuff. And I found still sealed, still packed up, the Atom Pro 2s. Oh, like it was, I'm not into like manifesting. Like I've never believed like, oh, you can manifest things, but it's really weird that there are a lot of times when you're like specifically looking for something and then that thing shows up. And I don't know if it's just because I was paying attention and I was like, oh, I spotted it, and maybe I wouldn't have spotted it if I hadn't already picked up the other ones. Consistency. Yeah, for sure. Consistency. But it was just kind of a interesting thing that same day, maybe like 30 minutes later, I found the Atom Pro 2s still sealed, and knowing that I'm going to be able to sell those for quite a bit. So that was pretty cool. I also picked up some other things, a pretty decent monocular that I could sell for pretty good. I got an angle grinder for me, like a what are they called? power, like a electric one, to not plug in a battery angle grinder.
Can I stop you a little bit?
Yeah.
What's a binocular?
Oh, so what a binocular, you have the two eye holes you look through.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but not glasses, like binoculars. Like you'd like go outside and you're looking at things, right?
Oh, okay. But so it's like a binocular, but it's
just one.
It's one. Okay. All right.
Monocular. Yeah.
I know a lot of people are gonna give me comments for asking, but I have to ask.
So not a monocle, not like a
like
single
Monopoly
glass.
Man.
But Monopoly Man doesn't have a monocle.
Oh, is that one of those?
Yeah, that's one of the what's it called effect? The
I know what you're talking about. The Mandela effect.
Mandela effect, yeah. So not
the Planters Peanuts guy though has a monocle.
Oh, I think you're probably right. That's probably right.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got a monocular. It's pretty decent. I picked up, some pickleball stuff. But yeah, I got this angle grinder. I could probably sell it for like $80 on eBay. But it came with 3 batteries, the charger, the angle grinder, and brand new. They're like $150. It's like a slightly off-brand one. But I've been looking for one. It's one of those things that I don't use all the time. I wouldn't need one necessarily to go out and spend $150, but I got it for $8. I tested it out. It works. Like I've been killing it at these Amazon return stores. And which is why I want to say, Orlando, why haven't you gone to one yet? At least to see what it's like in San Diego.
Now the reality is I have way too much inventory. I don't even need to be sourcing right now, but I need to go. I will go this week. I'm thinking maybe this Friday, maybe in a couple of days on this Friday. So
yeah, our next update episode I want to hear, because it might be terrible out there. You might have a bad store. It sounds like a lot of people, everybody's stores are different and they're different chains and different owned ones. But give it a shot. You never know.
Now I wanted to land on where you talked about the idea that the algorithm end up preferencing items that are newly listed, and I'm telling you I have no scientific data. We'll say it is 100% true. Because, listen, I've had so many items that I'll get from the garage sale. I'll list them, and within a few hours, I'll sell some of them. And I'll get some good offers. But then if I counter offer, I don't accept the offers, I will not hear anything for months. Right? So, like, I just had a Dymo label printer that, it was brand new, sealed in box. It was, I listed it for $400 new because that's kind of what they went for. And I got a bunch of offers in the beginning for like 150, 200, and I declined them. And I just thought, eventually somebody's going to buy it outright or somebody's going to offer me. No, it's been 6 months. I just now got an offer on it. So my guess is eBay's algorithm doesn't like it, that you didn't convert. And so they push your item down. So yes, if you're listening, if you have newly listed items and you're going to make a decent profit, just accept that offer and just keep moving forward. Are you agreed on that one?
I agree.
Okay. All right. So, hey, one place that you'll always be favored is My Reseller Genie. My Reseller Genie is a great software for resellers made by resellers. And, we're getting into that phase where things are getting kind of crazy in Q3 and Q4. And you want to make sure you have something already set up to track your profit and loss, to be able to import all your eBay data. So when it comes tax time, come January, and you're like, I really need that refund, you are ready to go. So if you haven't yet checked out My Reseller Genie, check them out. Go to our link below and use our code PureHustle, all in caps, and you'll get 15% off the first month. I've been using My Reseller Genie ever since GoDaddy bookkeeping went down 2-3 years ago, and I've never looked back. So if you haven't checked them out yet, check out My Reseller Genie. Use the link, use our code PureHustle, get 15% off the first month, and you'll never turn back. Yeah. All right, what are some random stories, Mike?
All right, so since the theme of my reselling recently has been these return stores, so the last several times I've gone on a Friday, I'm there before they open. I get a little ticket for a raffle, and they always say, the raffle's going to be like between 10:30 to 11. I've stayed till like close to 11:30, just waiting. I've already gotten all the things in my cart, and they just never do it. So I'm like, whatever, I'll hand it to somebody on my way out. Well, this last time I went, I'm like, I'm going to stay. I just want to experience the raffle to see what it's like. And I was talking to the guy in front of me in line about it, and the lady behind me in line got her ticket and left. And he's like, yeah, a lot of people will get tickets and then leave and then come back when it's closer time to the raffle. He's all, I tend to go in, try and see if I can buy anything, leave, and then come back. So anyways, I get my ticket. It's finally the raffle time, and they're raffling off random things like an air mattress, air fryer, 2 TVs. One of them's like a 32-inch TV. One of them was a big 50-inch TV, right? So I'm waiting. My number doesn't get called. Then it's the last one. It's the big 50-inch TV. They call a number. It's not my number. Dang it. But then I see the box opening station isn't busy because everybody's standing over by the raffle. So I run over there because I want to get my stuff open. But I wasn't really paying attention because once I'm over there, I still hear them calling out numbers. And I realize, oh my goodness, like obviously the person's number they called for the big TV wasn't here. He had like left. So they're still running through. And so I'm like, how many numbers did they call? Did I miss mine? Then they call a number, and it was the guy standing in front of me won. And so I'm like, I was stoked for him because he was saying he never won anything at any of the raffles here. So I was glad that he won it. But part of me was like, in the back of my head was like, did they call my number? Like, were they calling it a couple times and they just moved on to the next one? I don't really care because I don't know what I would have done with a 50-inch TV. I don't need one in my house, and it'd be a pain to sell it on Facebook. I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a pain, but trying to put it in my car and store it somewhere while I'm waiting to meet up with some random person who wants to buy a 50-inch TV. So I'm not like sore about it. I'm excited the other guy won, but it was kind of interesting to think like, all right, like there are people who are winning some stuff here. Like, all right. So that's just my random story that the last time I went, the guy behind me got a TV in one of the bins, like a 32-inch TV. And then this last time, the guy in front of me won. So eventually it's going to be me. Like, I'm going to find one of the items that everybody's like trying to get. And again, it's just that consistency.
No, there you go. I got to tell you, I feel that everything is done better outside of California when it comes to reselling. Like, I've never heard of any of that stuff happening here. I'm pretty sure the story.
I think everything is done better outside of California.
Yeah, well, I love California. I mean, I do. It's gonna be hard for me to ever leave, but it's one of those things where let me give you some more context. I went to the bins. This is kind of a random story. I just decided now to talk about it, but I went to the bins with my son because my son's trying to do some reselling and start paying for some college. And something happened with the schedule, and we didn't get to go to our honey hole, there is this one thrift store that is still worth going to out here. But outside of that, there really isn't much. But we have the bins here, and I've made some money on the bins. Like, you remember, I had that Nintendo chair that I sold for $700 something, and I've sold some Vitamix stuff, whatever. But I gotta tell you, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like I need to make a YouTube video where I just trash the bins. Like, I just badmouth it so bad, and hopefully it goes viral, and then it'll wake up Goodwill. I'm not going to do it, but I go to the bins, and it's gotten worse. It's not better, worse. So let me give everybody some context. So when it first opened, I'll never forget, Latin Pickers, they hit me up, and they're like, "Hey, you going?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know what was happening." He's like, "Hey, come join us." So they went there because they were expecting bins with books. Like, do the bins at Goodwill's have books? The ones in Texas that you're at? Yeah. Right? They have full bins that's full of books, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we went there, and I go to Latin Pickers. They were already in line when I got there. They had like 3 items in their hand. I'm like, "You guys leaving already?" And they're like, "Orlando, the only books they have are these." And they pointed, and they had a bookshelf of books, but that's it. No bins of books. Zero. Okay, so if you go on YouTube, whenever you see people at the bins, there's full-on large bins of books. Not only are there full-on bins of books, but they get rotated like pretty frequently. Right? Well, what is the rotation at your location?
I don't know. It's probably like every half hour or so.
Okay. So there wasn't that. Okay. But when I first got there, they actually had, I think, about like 6 bins of hard goods, and the rest was clothing. And I've mentioned this on the podcast. When I first went there, they didn't rotate those bins. Like, I went the next day, and I went the day after, and it was the exact same bins. What they were doing is they'd come out there with like a shopping cart full of stuff, and they would just put them in the bins. Like, they didn't even, I'm like, what is going on? And then they had this whole other section that had stuff that was priced cheaper than in store. And so there were some good things. Well, now I come back. Hard goods is only 4 bins in the entire store. Clothing is the rest of the bins, okay? And I show up, and I'm there with my son, and my son's a new reseller, so he's new, meaning that he hasn't been doing it consistently. And so he's going through that, and it's just trash upon trash upon trash. And I said, well, son, I guess we'll just stay and we'll just wait for them. Maybe they'll rotate it soon. And a worker heard me, and they said, oh, yeah, we're going to rotate them in the next 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, sweet. We're going to get brand new bins. So they make the announcement like, everyone will be rotating bins and blah, blah. The announcement goes over the speakers. They roll out the gate. One bin comes out, and the bin was full of trash. And so I'm like, what is going on here? The clothing bins, they would be like, we will now rotate the bins 2 bins at a time every 30, 45 minutes. Okay. It was terrible. Just trash upon trash. And so on the way home, I told my son, I'm like, hey, let's catch some YouTube videos of people in the bins in other parts of the country. So I pull up like Harry Tornado. Okay. So Harry Tornado went to the bins. He's like, hey, can I find $1,000 of inventory in a day? And I looked at my son. I said, son, we can't even find $10 in an hour and a half. So we watched, sure enough, full on bins of plush, bins of books, bins of electronics, bins of whatever. And I'm like, listen, if you're from San Diego Goodwill and you're listening to this podcast right now, you guys need to watch some YouTube or something. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, listen, I want to help you out. I want you to make a lot of money. And right now, you're not going to make any money. I'm pretty sure that bin store is going to shut down soon. Because when I go, there's maybe 20 people at one time. How many people do you think are at your bins when you go?
Yeah, probably like 30, 40 people.
Yeah, but there's always new people coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not at this place. It's the same people. So there's like the thrifting bros, and they're like, they'll thrift, and then they'll go sit on the side. So like 8 of them have been there for like 4 hours. It's the same people. So I don't know what's going on. This is centrally located. Like, this is in downtown San Diego. There's nice underground parking. Like, it's air conditioned. Like, everything's great, but all they do is sell trash. And so Goodwill, I'm telling you, if you just had bins that rotated every half hour, you had 8 bins of hard goods, new clothing, and you just rotated that stuff super quick, you would have that place packed out. But guess what? No one's going to go there. No one's going to go there. It's just like, unless you're one of those people that live like down the street and you just walk over, maybe it's worth it to you. But anyways, all right. I don't know if that was a random story or that was a rant, but it was something.
It was something.
Right. But okay, here's the other thing. eBay needs to come up with some way to report messages. Like, I'm all about free speech, but not in the messages. Like, I lately I feel like I'm getting trolled, and I know this is probably gonna open the floodgates of people to troll me even more on eBay. But let me read you some recent messages. One was, I had a remote for sale, and I get a message: need manual now. Okay, thanks. Like, what am I? Do you want me to say yes, sir? Like, what are you looking for? So I ignored that one. Okay, I got another message here. Oh, here you go. This is a bowling ball I was selling for $90. I can buy it now if you make it $6 only, because I am 7 years old and I have autism. What? Number one, I have a child with autism, and at 7 years old, there's no way this child could write what this person wrote. Second, $6. Third, where are your parents? Unless this is a parent. Why can't I report this person? Like, why isn't there a thing where I can click and I would like to read their username, but I'm not going to read their username because it's not Pure Hustle appropriate. But their username wasn't even appropriate. So I'm like, why can't I just click on their username and report this person for
I mean, if you feel like there's, you're getting pestered or trolled or whatever, maybe you could block people. That's an option.
Oh, yeah, no, all these people have been blocked. Don't get me wrong. Then I always get this. There's this item I have that people claim is fake or that it's not vintage. And listen, when I picked it up, it was amongst a collection of vintage items. Vintage is 20 years. People are like, oh, those screws are made in the 60s or whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay. I never said it was antique. I just said it was vintage. People can make decisions. People can be big boys and big girls and look at a listing and go, I don't want to buy that. Like, I'm not forcing anybody to buy it. And so this person goes, way beyond worthless, fake, China junk. But you already knew that when you bought it for $5, didn't you? I'm like, come on. Like, can I report you? Like, why can't I report you? Like, I get trolled like maybe I would say 3 to 4 times a week. Just people just being mean. And I don't know why eBay doesn't have a system where you can report these messages. Because number one, it's not right. Number two, it's a waste of time. And if truly eBay is going in the direction where the algorithm is going to begin to pick up whether you reply to messages on time, like these messages they don't deserve a response. Like, this should just be automatic. Like, I'm not going to respond. You've been reported, and move on. So anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should eBay have a reporting system for buyers that harass you online? Because I'm not the only one. I mean, we've shared a lot of stories of people harassing on this podcast over the length of time. So there you go. That's our random stories. Now, if you want to hear other great stories, you can also jump on over to our Discord. Now, the access to our Discord is via our Patreon. So if you want to help out our podcast, you can always go to patreon.com/PureHustlePodcast or go to the link below. And for $5.55 a month, the same price of a McDonald's value meal. Okay,
look, we got to stop talking about McDonald's on here, man. We don't want to correlate our podcast and our Discord to McDonald's. Like our Discord is providing so much value.
Starbucks is more expensive now than even that's the thing. We're providing so much value. Maybe we need to up the price of our of the Patreon.
No, I don't think so. I think we've got such a good community. I think it's good. Yeah, no, let's $5.55 a month. I think it's a reasonable amount for what you get out of it. You get a great community. You get access, whether you want to post in our Discord or not. Maybe you just want to lurk and kind of read some stories and see what other people are picking up, pick up some bolos and some ideas. Maybe pick up a few tips and tricks here and there. But even if you're not necessarily interested in the Discord, it is honestly our Patreon is what keeps Orlando and I doing this. Yes. If we didn't have our Patreon supporters, we would have had to have wrapped up the podcast, probably a couple years ago. When we started Patreon, it was kind of a, like, let's see if we've got the support. We've got listeners out there. Let's see if they're, if we can get some support for this podcast. Otherwise, man, this is just a lot of work. And sure enough, we were very blessed with having a lot of our loyal listeners say, hey, we appreciate what you guys do. So even if that's the only reason you're paying the money, we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much.
And thank you to all of you that go above the $5.55. We have a lot of people that help us out $10 a month, $20 a month. So we are truly grateful. So thank you. So if you haven't yet signed up, go to the link below or go to patreon.com/PureHustlePodcast. All right. Also, you can find us on social media. We are Pure Hustle Podcast on all platforms, except we are Pure Hustle Cast on X. And check us out on X. Mike and I have been talking. Maybe we'll start doing our live streams on X too. Try to engage, we have a lot of resellers on X, and I find that X right now is definitely growing on the reseller space. I follow big content creators out there in reselling like Reezy and others, and they're growing on there. And we're growing too. So if you haven't followed us on X, jump on over to X. Also, leave us a phone call if you ever want to leave a comment or you have a question or a hustle of the week, 619-738-1170, 619-738-1170. Or you can always shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. That's purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. Grateful for all of you that tune in to our podcast. But if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, check us out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe, smash that like button, hit that bell notification so you're notified when items drop. And as always, grateful for all of you on the iTunes reviews. If you haven't left us an iTunes review, just go on over, hit that 5-star, let people know why you listen. And it definitely helps us in the algorithm. All right. We got some things to talk about here.
That's right.
Are we doing reseller topic? Oh, there we go.
All right. Rating items and auto buyer feedback, changes in Etsy, continuing issues with Vero, and Facebook Marketplace stats. On top of that, a Mayan vase found at a thrift store. All of this and more on Reseller News.
There you go. Now, I don't know why what I'm going to share was not on the seller update. Like, I just think it's weird. Why we never got an eBay message, but instead I heard it via Channel X, selling on marketplaces and social platforms. Like, this is the site I got this from. And I'm pretty sure it's like legitimate. Like I don't think somebody would just make up a story about eBay.
Wait a minute. Are you just are you doing the thing where like I saw it on the internet, so it has to be true, or have we verified this?
This has to be. Listen, I don't. Why? It's such a mundane story. Like, why would somebody make up a mundane story?
Hey, that's the best kind of lie, right? The kind that people. Okay, it's probably true. What is this? Tell me what's happening.
All right. So, according to the author Chris Dawson, this came out on July 8th. There's a new eBay rate this item and auto feedback. So let me read a little bit. We're guessing that this ties in with eBay's push to get ratings for products, which can be used to promote listings on Google. It's similar to adding photos of the product when leaving feedback. The chances are that many will miss the fact that there's a product rating, not a seller rating, right? So right now you get seller ratings, right? Usually there's like those 3 categories. One is like accuracy, customer service, shipping, and people generally, hopefully, leave you 4 to 5 stars. This is a item rating. Although eBay has a pop-up information buyers that it's a new feature that disappears once you've seen it a couple of times. There is a danger if a buyer rushes to eBay to leave feedback the instant a product arrives. It's not really a fair assessment of the actual product, as they really will be leaving feedback about the service and condition it arrived in. And that's always been what eBay has done. Like when you get feedback, it's not about the item. It's about you. It's about your shipping. It's about your customer service, about your accuracy in the listing. This is if you rate this item in feedback, it helps eBay listings appear in search engines, and it gives a 1 to 5 star rating. Long term, that is based on the quality of the item. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Mike? You think that's a good thing?
It almost feels again like I understand if they're doing it for the Google search SEO optimization and all of that. But I mean, that's what it's like on Amazon, right? Like when you buy an item on Amazon, you're leaving feedback on the item and not on the seller, right? Because sometimes you're buying from third-party sellers. A lot of people may not know that, but the item that they're getting could come from a third-party seller. But when they leave feedback, they're doing feedback on the item, right? Like these pots and pans, they stick, they don't work, or this item broke, or only lasted 2 months, or super high quality. You know, it has a nice hefty feel to it. So people are used to giving feedback to items. And I feel like eBay for a long time has been trying to be Amazon, or trying to take or be like Amazon in certain areas, and eBay's just different, right? Like, sure, they'd be more profitable, which is maybe why they're pushing that, if they were seen like Amazon, where people were going as a place where they're getting new items on stuff. But at least for our listeners, at least the vast majority of our listeners, they're not buying in bulk on items because they're doing private label and selling on eBay. Most of our listeners are sourcing items at estate sales and garage sales, and maybe through a local, connection that they have. And so I guess it makes sense in some ways if it doesn't affect the seller, right? Like if as long as the buyer understands, like, okay, this arrived on time, good, check. This was it packaged well, okay, check. The seller communicated, check. This item is garbage, though, because then maybe if that's part of our thing when we're looking up items, when we're looking sourcing up, when we're sourcing and we're checking our the what solds, and we're trying to see, okay, what are the comps on this? If there's like a rating on an item and you see like, man, this item actually has really bad rating, that might be an indication to you that over time it's going to get a bad reputation. It's going to drop out of being popular to sell. And there's a higher risk of a customer wanting a return, right? Like this broke or this doesn't work. So it could actually be helpful for buyers as long as it doesn't affect us as sellers, right? Like as long as buyers recognize I'm rating this item separately than I'm rating the seller. And it's not going to play any, because it would suck if eBay starts penalizing people like you're selling items that are low quality items. It's like, well, this is what I found. This is what people are willing to pay for. But maybe over time it shifts towards that, and it might actually be somewhat beneficial. Because think about the items you get returned. Some of them are because it was just a bad item. It might have been a new in-box item, and the person gets it, and they're like, "This doesn't work." So you might have it set up where, you don't do free returns. But if you're a store that already has free returns, and somebody's unhappy with the toilet seat that they bought from you, even though it was new and in box, you're stuck with that return. But if you see before you source all those, this only has a 2-star rating. Maybe I don't source these.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is sellers, especially if we're selling used items, like we don't have control, right, over certain items. Right now, the reason we do well as secondary sellers of items that are secondhand is because usually the stuff we pick up that sells for good money is quality items, right? So I don't see, like somebody's gonna give a 1-star rating to a Ren Spooner Hawaiian shirt. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't think that's what it's intended for. Now, you bring about a great point. So when I used to do Amazon, where Amazon was 90% of my business, the star ratings mattered because I knew that if something had like a 2-star rating and I had a lot of them, that the item was going to be returned. So it wasn't worth me picking up for Amazon for retail arbitrage. Right. But if it had a 5-star rating, that meant that generally people would be happy about it and I wouldn't have to deal with the returns. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how that plays out. I think it's kind of interesting as long as it does not affect sellers because we do not have control, right? Like, let's say, you find, 5 boxes of Beats, right? The headphones, right? New and sealed, right? You have no way to inspect it. You don't want to open it because you want to sell it as new. And then somebody doesn't like the way it hangs on their head or the audio quality, and then they give it a 2-star rating and somehow it hurts your feedback. Like, that's not a good thing to do. So hopefully eBay doesn't go down that road. Now, this other one I found was interesting. eBay is now leaving auto feedback, according to this article. And so eBay says that auto-generated feedback will be added to successfully completed transactions if the following conditions are met. Buyer doesn't leave feedback within 7 days of the estimated delivery date. The buyer hasn't reported an issue with their transaction. Seller has received 10 feedback or less. So I thought this was interesting. The last one, right? The last one's what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just a way of helping out new sellers, right? If it doesn't affect us, then I guess it's not a big deal. But maybe it is a beneficial. Like, 'cause I remember when you're new, right? You sell something because not everybody leaves feedback. Mm-hmm. Like, you could sell thousands of items and only have a couple hundred feedback.
Yeah,
because it just depends on whether people are going to message you back or not. But if you're brand new and you've sold 15 items but only one person has left feedback for you, that could hurt you in the algorithm. That could hurt you if people are looking to buy and like, oh, this is a new store. But if if it's just the guaranteed the first 10 items you sell, like if there's no complaints, you're going to get some good feedback on. I mean, that could be beneficial for new sellers.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, I've always said and recently, no news is good news, right? If you sell an item and you never hear from anybody, then it's good. Yeah, right? Everything worked out.
Hey, my wife and I say that all the time. Like, we haven't heard anything about those phones we sold, right? Sweet, must be good, no problem. Because sometimes there's in the back of your head, like, are they going to be happy with it? Was there a problem? Was it? So yeah, it's no news is good news with that. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, all right, here's one that. Okay. Oh, I was going to say the next topic here. I added it, so I don't know if you've seen this yet. Brand new today, like just released on a bunch of websites here, a bunch of. This one comes from NBC, CNBC. So it looks like Etsy CEO has just come out and is kind of changing the model or trying to change back to their original model. So we have a handful of Etsy sellers that listen to us, but I think this has broader implications to the reselling community in general. So one of the things that seems to have been affecting Etsy is kind of the Temu craze of people sourcing a bunch of cheap items and then listing those items on websites like Amazon and
whatnot.
Yeah, whatnot.
All over whatnot.
And it makes sense. I mean, I talked about that with Temu. Like, you're going to probably go to swap meets and find whole booths that are basically just Temu stores. And I could see how that could be a problem for a store like a company like Etsy. And so the title of this one is Etsy CEO says company is escaping the race to the bottom and getting back to its artisan roots, which I think is kind of cool because that is what, I mean, think about, I've said several times with eBay, like eBay is trying to do something and be like Amazon when eBay should just be like, what is our identity? Mm-hmm. Our identity is like, we are the collectibles, we are the used, we are the weird, we're the unique. Like, this is what we're locking in on. We're the hard to find items. Instead of saying like, how can we be like Amazon and have the like return buyers where it's like, buy it again and you can buy your toilet paper from eBay, right? Like, that just seems that's not what eBay really is. Yeah. And maybe they want to go down that path, but it seems like they're spending time and energy on something they shouldn't be doing. Now, Etsy, their identity has always kind of been, or at least for a long time, their identity has been like the handmade items, the things that are like unique. This is something like a small mom and pop shop or just somebody working in their house. They're crocheting things, they're knitting, or they're sewing items. And then those items, those handmade items end up on Etsy, and they're unique, they're artisan. And here's another like little like tidbit from another article here. It says the marketing blitz. So they're trying to change back. They're trying to like, from what I gather, they're going to add like labels to things. So they can basically, you can easily see like what's the Temu type stuff versus like what's the handmade, and it says this marketing blitz comes as Etsy's tweaks in its policies and users experience, including a revamped homepage and implementation of standards that clarify products must be made, designed, sourced, or handpicked by sellers. And so I think that doesn't exclude, this new like clarification does not exclude resellers, right? Like if you're buying vintage 90s band shirts and you're going and you're finding that and that's your store, you could still have that as an Etsy store because you're going out and you're hand picking these items. And that's what they want. Like they want to be the store where you're going and you're buying almost from like a little boutique that is handpicked or handmade or designed these items, as opposed to just, do you ever remember like the indoor swap meets?
Yes.
Where it's basically like Temu stores. It's all just like knockoff items. And I feel like I'm not an Etsy seller. Maybe Etsy sellers are furious about this. Maybe there's a whole bunch of people who are making a killing right now off of, sourcing from places like Temu and selling on Etsy. But at the same time, I like that they understand what their identity is as a platform and they're sticking to it. And they're like, how do we make sure we're rewarding our sellers who are designing and woodworking and going out to thrift stores to find like I know that my buyers come to buy the 90s vintage shirts that I'm out scouring for, as opposed to the person who's just buying a whole bunch of stuff in bulk from China and then selling it on Etsy.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think it's a good move. Again, I'm with you. Like, I don't understand. The Etsy community is a whole nother world, and we may get a lot of hate for this, but I agree with it. I think it's a good thing. I wish Whatnot would have a little bit more controls on it, because I've been on Whatnot lately, and it's still the Wild West out there, man. It is crazy. The gambling stuff, it's just wild. So it's good. I think that's good. I think overall, I think eBay, I've always said eBay needs to make sure that they're careful, because, all the time I will find something that, like, this is why I don't like selling new items on eBay, because you go on there and there's somebody that has it for like 50% off. And you're like, what? Like, how are they selling it? And you click and it's a Chinese seller, and they have a special relationship with U.S. carrier, and so they actually have like free shipping, and they guarantee it'll get there in a week or two, and so you end up losing out on that business. So I think that's great. That's good news. All right, now I had a Vero story, but I don't think I'll talk about it much. Basically, it was a bigger seller. They have their own site where they sell used goods, but basically the idea that eBay has a lot of work to do with Vero, and the fact that Vero is still something that you can't really appeal. Like, if your listing gets taken down, like, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, right? You have to like contact eBay for Business on Facebook, or you have to call eBay, and then you have to prove all the stuff. And it's really broken right now. I will say it is broken. I recently had a mesh trucker hat from a local surf shop that I got a Vero listing on. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that surf shop didn't contact eBay. Maybe they did, but I'm pretty sure they didn't. I had a hat here from El Cajon Ford that got Vero listed. And El Cajon Ford I'm pretty sure the guy selling cars did not contact eBay and say, maybe the people are counterfeiting our stuff, like, you need to take down that listing. Like, I'm not sure what is going on with eBay with the Vero, but it's getting pretty bad. Now, I don't think there's an uproar as much as there should be in the eBay community, because it's not directly affecting us yet. Like, I haven't heard a story of anybody being suspended or having their store throttled or anything. But if that time comes, eBay is going to have to figure out a way to appeal things. All right, let's talk about Facebook stats. So I thought this was pretty interesting. Do you remember what was maybe I should ask you this, but what was Facebook's big announcement 2 years ago about reselling? Not just Facebook Marketplace, but what were they think they were pushing? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. So 2 years ago, they were pushing that everybody should have a storefront, like a Facebook storefront. Right. So I remember taking my username from my eBay store and I ended up getting an Instagram. I got a Facebook and I was going to, flood my store. And I remember everybody at that time was like, we're cross-listing to Facebook Marketplace. Like, it's really great. And I remember Facebook had offered free shipping and all this on their marketplace. Well, all that kind of died. Like right now, whenever I talk to people about Facebook Marketplace, the one word I always hear come out of their mouth is scammers. Like that is just filled with scammers. And now you can still find good stuff. I source from Facebook Marketplace, but I thought these stats were interesting. So here's some major stats. This comes from Tech Report. One stat is there's 1 billion people that use the Facebook Marketplace each month. And obviously that's international. On average, 250 million people use the Facebook Marketplace to make sales. Facebook marketing is available and used in over 200 nations of the world. But here's where things get interesting. So they make a claim here that 53% of Americans patronize secondhand luxury products and use the Facebook Marketplace to seek items. They said, though 69% of people shop for luxury items using eBay, in 2021, 53% used the Facebook Marketplace to search for things they desired in the luxury market. Aside from using the Facebook Marketplace, 51% of luxury shoppers chose Poshmark to purchase apparel and accessories. And I thought that's interesting. So I wonder, of the luxury, number one, how many of it are scammers, right? Like fake Chanel, fake Louis Vuitton, fake Supreme, all that stuff. Or is it a place, like if you do have these things, that maybe you should list it on Facebook Marketplace? Maybe you'll have greater sell-through on Facebook Marketplace. I thought that was interesting. Here, let me see. Here's another ad. Facebook Marketplace is composed of 61.8% female users. Regarding gender composition, females comprise 61.8% of the Facebook Marketplace in January of 2023. This is quite a contrast to the fact that the male gender dominates the Facebook platform. And according to demographics, males occupy 38% presence on the Facebook Marketplace. And so I thought, hey, if you're selling on Poshmark, maybe you should, right? Because Poshmark is generally known for selling women's clothing. I know a lot of people sell men's clothing there too, including myself. But maybe this is an option. Maybe this is good. I mean, if 68% of people on Facebook Marketplace are women that are looking for, clothing or apparels or whatever, now it doesn't say that. It could be they're looking for, video game consoles or books. We don't know, but maybe it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. And the last thing I want to add here is they said branded apparel on the Facebook Marketplace is the most wanted item by platform users. From the research gathered, branded fashion wear is the most sought after item on the marketplace. Do you need to sell your high quality branded wear? If yes, the Facebook Marketplace is great for selling secondhand, high-end and clothing, accessories, and new wear. So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other stats on there, but I just thought this was interesting, that maybe we've missed it. Let us know in the comments. Like, are you still using Facebook Marketplace? Are you shipping from a Facebook Marketplace? Or is it something that you think was just a fad for a little bit and it kind of died out and it's not worth it to you anymore? Now, do you still source there, Mike, from Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't sourced there quite as much as I have in the past, but Facebook Marketplace definitely is, it can be profitable. I have specific things that I look for, and so every couple of days I'll just pull up. I actually made a quick little YouTube video showing strategy for using the desktop version. I find the desktop version a little bit better. But, if you've got like 5 to 10 different items you're sourcing for, how to kind of set your parameters for them and bookmark a set of tabs open, so that way you can just pull it up and get the most recent ones on those. So it's a quick way of checking. So the Facebook Marketplace just there's not quite as many people here. I'm in a smaller city, but there's still items. So yeah, not as much as I used to, but I still do.
Yeah, it's becoming more difficult because it's not a clean search. I find that OfferUp is really clean. I find that Craigslist is really clean. But Facebook Marketplace is like all over the place. Hey, so we had another story. We'll probably push it to our next update episode, but somebody found a Mayan vase at a thrift store. It's one of those stories like, oh man, I can't believe they found this. But we'll share it for another time. I think it's time for us to get to our bolos.
Yeah.
Bolo.
Bolo. What's your bolo?
Yeah. All right. So my bolo is we're getting to that time of the year, the back to school time. If you go to a Target or Walmart, you're already seeing all the stuff out. Like half the store is basically back to school stuff, whether it's back to school college or back to school high school, junior high, that type of stuff. So think about the items that people are looking for. Like obviously we've talked about TI-83 calculators, and there's certain things like that. But certain curriculum books, some textbooks, different things like that, whether it's college or again, whether you're thinking of back to school for maybe it's backpacks or certain things, especially as like vintage things have gotten popular. A lot of kids are doing their back to school clothes shopping. They want to go into the new school year with a new fit, looking swaggy as possible looking and all fresh. That.
What did you say? Swaggy?
Swaggy.
Swaggy. Yeah. So is there a new word now?
Yeah, they want their first fit check to be right, so maybe it's that vintage band shirt, right? So just think of what are the things people are going to be needing back to school. So this isn't like a specific item per se, but just like a mind shift, because there's certain items that I have every year that tend to sell only in the month of like July and the beginning of August. And Orlando, you've mentioned that teachers even get a little bit sometimes like a budget. Maybe they get a few $100s at the start of the year for their department. And so people are looking for, maybe it's old history. Calculators or old history, documentaries or things like that because they want the VHS to play because that's the only way to get it. So definitely think of the back to school stuff because there's certain items that are only going to sell this month or the next month, and then it's going to sit for a while otherwise.
No, it's good. I remember on Amazon, man, the good old days of like sourcing backpacks. Like I would go to TJ Maxx and Marshalls and I would source like 500 to 1,000 backpacks. I don't know if people still do that, but right now is actually the time you're supposed to be sourcing and selling those, not August. So just a heads up, if you have items that you're hoping to sell in the back to school season, right now is the time that you should be listing because right now is when people are going to buy it. By the time it's August, it's too late already. So be aware of that. All right, so I know this is a given, but I'm just fascinated at old computer tech lately. Like we can talk about Apple IIs and we could talk about old Commodores. It's interesting. I was watching something the other day about how they used to sell computers at Toys R Us. And maybe you're too young for these days, but when I was a kid, I remember you go to Toys R Us and you'd have a whole aisle of computers. And Commodore 64... a lot of people, when they look at Commodore 64, they're like, oh, it's worth a lot of money. Now, it is a good item to source if you're able to get it for cheap. But you have to remember, 10 million of those were sold. So there's a lot of them out there still, okay? But here's the thing with old tech is that you can make a lot of money. And sometimes, it's not like that you're making hundreds, but you may make a 20x or a 30x on old tech. So let me give you some examples. If you ever find like the old Apple manuals for the old computers, like the spiral bound ones, but it has like the nice Apple logo, like the Apple on it, like those sell pretty well. If you find keyboards, like it used to be only like the Microsoft, I think it was a 4000 ergonomic, that one would sell really quick. It still sells really well, but now I'm finding people like selling the compact Presario keyboard or like some of the older keyboards. When I was a kid, I remember when I had a Packard Bell, my 1 gig Packard Bell that cost my parents $3,000 back in 1996, which is crazy. But like even those kind of keyboards are selling. You got to look at the model and check it out. But keep an eye. I recently picked up 2 mouses, and these 2 mouses. Do people still buy mouses for computers, or is everything just a trackpad?
No, mice for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so use a mouse. Okay. So it's like the other day when I had to explain to my youngest what a record was. It felt so weird. Like I had to tell him that it was this thing that you lay and then this needle scratches it and then sound comes out. And I was like, I can't believe I had to explain this.
Sure, Dad. Okay, let's get you back to bed now.
It was so weird. Or even cassette tapes. Like my youngest, who's 12, has never experienced a cassette tape. Like crazy. All right. So I sold one. It was a vintage Dexa DEXXA 3-button rollerball mouse. And then I sold a vintage Logitech Mouseman Macintosh version mouse. Now I only sold them for like $16, $18, but I picked them up for like 25 cents a piece. Like it wasn't like super expensive, but I made good money on those, right? And I have sold like old Windows XP sealed. We had a hustle of the week 2 weeks ago where people sold like Quicken software, right? And QuickBooks from like 2015. So it doesn't have to be old, but just keep an eye, because I think now people are beginning to collect some of those things. Speaking of that, I still have an Apple Mac, something that I haven't listed that's worth like $0. Oh my! I'm telling you, I got too much inventory, man. Too much inventory right now.
Get it listed, man. Get it listed.
I know. I just think about the process. Like I have to, and I'm sounding really lazy right now, but I have to take it out of the box. I have to plug it in. I have to make sure everything. It's just it's not like a vintage toy where I just put it in the light box, take pictures, and I just list it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, so yeah, that's our bolo. So keep an eye for old computer tech. Hey, before we move on, if you haven't yet checked out Vendoo, we've talked about cross-posting, and Vendoo allows you to cross-post across many platforms, not just Facebook Marketplace, but gray old, Etsy, Poshmark, like you name it. And if you haven't checked out Vendoo, make sure to do so. You actually get, I believe it's like 25% off for the first month by using our code Pure Hustle. Go to the link below. And Vendoo is incredible because not only do they cross list, but Vendoo, when your item sells, it'll pull the listing. Vendoo actually has AI background removal. And so if you have an item that, let's say you listed on eBay years ago, but it doesn't have that smooth white background, when you put it into Vendoo and you're going to cross list it, you can actually have the option of removing the background on that old listing, which is pretty phenomenal. So if you haven't checked out Vendoo, make sure to do so and use our code Pure Hustle. You get 25% off the first month, and it'll definitely help you to cross list. All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here?
Honestly, getting through some death piles, like you mentioned, having too many items you don't even need to source. I'm kind of at that place where I just need to get these death files done. So I don't love doing that, but like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, a lot of times there's a higher priority given to items that are listed more recently. So it could mean more money for me. So I'm looking forward to that part, making the money.
I'm kind of in the same boat, that. The other day, I sold a Mad magazine, and I could not find it. I spent 30 minutes. I eventually found it amongst a pile of a bunch of other Mad magazines. And I'm like, why is this here? And to give you context, my place got flooded a few months ago, if you're new to the podcast. And I had to move a bunch of inventory. I had to move like 2 or 3 rooms, a garage full of stuff. And so some of the stuff got mixed, unfortunately, because we had to move quickly because I didn't want stuff to get damaged. Well, I felt really motivated because I'm like, look at all the stuff that I have here that I have not listed. Right now, there are some things I'm looking at right now. Like I have this Guitar Hero thing, but it's not like Guitar Hero. It's Guitar Praise. It's like a Christian version of Guitar Hero. And I don't even know what the comps are on that. But I'm like, number one, I'm pretty sure I picked it up and it had good comps, but I need to get that listed. I have 3 other Guitar Hero guitars I'm staring at right now that are in the studio with me. I have a clarinet right next to it. I have a boombox. Like this is silly. Like I need to take care of this. And remember, if you are a new reseller, the number one thing that will get you addicted is the sourcing. I don't think if anyone goes, man, I just couldn't put my laptop down. I loved listing. I could have gone all day listing. No one says that. When it comes to sourcing, you can always source, but make sure you take care of those death piles. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I want to get that done. Be real with you. I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time with my kids over the next month or so, just because one is off to college and one's now entering middle school. And so things are changing. So part of the beauty of being full-time is being able to take care of that. And over the next few weeks, I'll be discussing this. I do have another opportunity that is going to switch things up. The podcast will continue, but things may be switching up a little bit here. And if you don't hear about it, then it's not going to happen. But I'm 99% sure it's happening. I'm actually all in already, but let's see where it goes. So anyways, we'll leave on that suspenseful note.
Yeah.
And with that being said, make sure to be real.
Be relevant.
Be reselling. Peace.